Hi everyone, this is Holly. Today I'm going to be sharing my top 15 timeless thrift store makeovers. And as always, I hope you enjoy the show. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you click that button. This was a great thrift store find. This is a stepping stool for a child. Look at that. It was $5.99. I got it for $3 on that half day off, and I was originally going to do that dupe right there from Antique Farmhouse, but then I saw this on the cottage core scene, and the greens, there's that certain green, it's really hot. You saw it earlier. The pictures I'm actually showing you along with the reveals are from actual photos that show cottage core decor, and they have that really neat green color. I absolutely love it, and it's easily assimilated into farmhouse decor as well. And I thought it would be fun just to kind of have a little bit more accent in my home. So I start off spray painting this twice, but I don't want the smooth finish. So I'm still going to go ahead and brush on some Kilz, K-I-L-Z, white primer with a brush just so we get the faux wood lines, because that looks better. I think this was originally like a child's little stepping stool or something, and so it was really, it's that fake wood that's really shiny. So I just wanted, to make it look more like wood. And I know a lot of you are freaking out right now going, oh, what is she doing with that color green? Don't worry, it's all going to come together. Have faith. we are improvising because we did not have the right color green. And I'm just one of those people, I don't really want to go somewhere and leave in the middle of my project. I just want to make it work. And so I just knew I could make it all come together with my mixing of colors and different layers of colors. I knew we would land in the right place. So I start off adding a little bit of the charcoal gray on top, and I realized now that's too dark to start with. We need a lighter gray. And these are all apple barrel paints. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but the color that I'm doing right here is a little bit of the Country Gray by Apple Barrel. And I'm just kind of dry brushing it on. I'm going to use a baby wipe to smear it. And by the way, the green color I used is called Lime Sherbet. That's the color, just in case you want to recreate this on another DIY. But essentially what I end up doing is just giving a super cloudy gray look over the entire green surface. So everywhere there's green, I go through and dry brush, really dry brush, where it's so smeared it's like a blurred cloud. I hope that makes sense. You can see how I'm pressing the brush really hard. It's because it's almost like I'm trying to take the paint off, and I go through this process about 4 times until I literally change the color of the green. Now here comes the second coat, and you can see how dramatically, it's already changed so much. It doesn't look like the original green. And I'm going to continue to do that to the entire piece. And something I do want to mention too, I do end up finding it very helpful to dip my brush in a little bit of water, tap out just the excess moisture, and then use a very wet brush to do this, because it kind of helps smear the paint more. I hope that makes sense again. It made the paint have a great glide factor, and it made it so that it was like a watercolor covering the entire green. So that also created this look here where it looks like a totally different green. And now I'm taking the color Pavement by Apple Barrel, and I'm just doing a little bit of distressing on the edge of this. And for those of you that are new to my channel, I love using my fingers. Sorry, I just feel like I have more control. I'll use my palm, my fingers, whatever I need to. As you can see, I'm just kind of smearing it here, and anything goes, because this is supposed to be that little distressed country look. So don't worry if you make a mistake. If you decide to kind of age something in the same color and same look, it's not that big of a deal. And lastly, I'm taking some white, and I'm smearing white all over the top of this, because it was a little darker or dirtier maybe than I wanted it to be, and the white does the trick. So these are the Dollar Tree rub-on transfers. They're my favorite one, and they are perfect for the cottagecore look. If you get a chance and go online and look, you'll see a lot of vines painted sideways on ladders, on tables, on little stools like this. It couldn't get any more perfect than these rub-on transfers. So I'm going sideways, and I love that none of them are the same, because for this piece, those kinds of accents make it look more high-end. You know, it doesn't have that cookie cutter print like a factory print. It looks very, very custom made. Little tricky around the bend here, you guys. You got to hold it down really tight. And I'm using the Dollar Tree embossing tool. Shout out to Camaro from Dying to DIY. That is a channel I found from YouTube's autoplay. You know, when you're watching YouTube, how they just move you on to the next video. And thank goodness, because she is a really fun channel to watch. Check her out when you get a chance. Super cute girl. Reminds me of my son's girlfriend. But anyway, I'm just doing little accents on the sides, on the corners, not very many, because I think less is more with this. It looks more expensive, but this came up absolutely perfect. I couldn't have, you know, wished for it to be better than it came out. It's my favorite DIY today. Let me know what you guys think. Oh, this one was a fun one. Here's your outdated clock right here. The face was kind of yellow and the wood was really dark and it was reddish, and I just felt like it didn't go with my home decor. So I went ahead and I painted the gold trim black. That was the first thing I did. I taped it off, and then I added these Dollar Tree wooden beads. Now, back when I did this DIY, and again, I put this in here because clocks are timeless. No pun intended, but they are, you always come across an outdated clock, and this is just a great fun way to give it a facelift and bring it up to kind of 2025. It's trending, so I think this will be trending for a while too. This is just a cute look. So I did the wooden beads, and at that time Dollar Tree only had the rainbow wooden beads, so I had to paint them. But nowadays you can actually buy just plain wood beads, and you could either stain them or leave them. Totally up to you. They even have darker wood beads at the Dollar Tree that would work. But I ended up doing a white chalk paint on top, and I stained it with the territorial beige, and then I just kept trying to add all these different colors. I was kind of buffing it up to make it look a bit distressed. I even tried dry brushing some white, and now I'm doing black paint on top of it, and I just didn't like the way it looked. But I left it in here because this is actually a great way to, you know, upgrade a clock. It's just, see how the face is kind of yellow, the clock face? I just felt like the red, well, I didn't notice that the territorial beige was so red or rusty looking until it was against the yellowish clock face, and I just didn't like it. So I ended up repainting it this color, and I felt like that went so much better. And then I took some of the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree, and we're just going to wrap it around those beads. So funny enough, what this ended up looking like, which was kind of odd because I didn't plan for it. It was definitely going, I was trying to do a farmhouse thing, and it could be farmhouse. It definitely goes with that theme, but it also goes boho. And I had a couple people come on and go, oh, this would look really pretty in my nautical, you know, bathroom or bedroom. I can't remember what room they said, but I had two people say that, and I thought, you know what, this does kind of end up looking kind of nautical too. So you could go either direction, but it's a very versatile look, and I didn't mean for it to be, but it turned out to be a very versatile look, and it came up absolutely beautiful. I loved this look when it was all done. Look at that. This was another really cute thrift store makeover. This isn't like fancy gourmet olive oil jar. My sister found it at a thrift store, and she asked me if I wanted it, and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, look what a cute shape that is with the cork. I love shapes like this. So I wanted to do a little bit of a challenge, and you have to remember this was about 4 years ago, so I wasn't really great at this method. I'm going to spray paint it, and then I'm going to attempt to make faux wood here. Now, it did come up very beautiful. Everyone loved it, but I have since perfected this method. So if you stay tuned till the end of the video or towards the end, I will show where I do it again, and I have some more tips and tricks to share with you. I definitely learned some things about this. But here I'm just dry brushing on wax, and also there's a water-based stain in my description box. It also works really well with this method. You just dry brush it on and you leave it kind of, you can see the lines there. It looks like wood grain, and then I'm making little circles. I'm just trying to create some imperfection here so it looks more authentic like real wood, and I thought it came out really good. It was my first try at this method when I filmed this. They're 50% off sale, so I got it for $1.50, and I just thought it was so beautiful. It's real wood carved in with those edgings, and I've been waiting to do something with it, and I thought this was perfect because it definitely has that cottagecore vibe. Now I took it outside, I gave it a coat of a white primer, and then I took and spray painted it with the same Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the chiffon cream that I did with the tier tray, and it still just looked yucky to me. I didn't like it. So I brought it in and I did some custom mixing with the white and the apple barrel paint in the antique parchment, and I got this beautiful cream color, and I'm just painting it on, and then we finally get the look that I'm after. This just looks perfect, and I want to bring out all of those vines and little flowers that are in there, because that, again, when I was shuffling through online looking at all of the different cottagecore, you don't really see DIYs. You see more kitchens styled that way, bathrooms, living rooms. So you just get a feeling for the vibe. And I just knew that if I kind of stayed in these color themes, I was going to pick up a nice energy of the English cottage in the countryside. My mother's from England, and a lot of her school friends from her school days moved out to the countryside, and when we would go to visit, she would drive out there and take me to go see her girlfriends, and they had this kind of decor all over. In fact, I feel like the cottagecore vibe is actually finally giving, we do French country, we do French farmhouse, we do all these kinds of different decor. I feel like this is finally giving the stereotype, not everybody in the country decorates this way, but like a stereotyped vision of what we think when we think of an English cottage out in the countryside. We think this kind of decor, this kind of vibe. It's just very beautiful. So the final thing I do, as you could see, I lightened up the green a little bit because it dried a little darker than I wanted, and then I'm just dry brushing some of the cream color over it to give it a more muted look, and this just came out so romantic, so Jane Austen, and just perfect. It's a beautiful accent piece for this style. So I found this jug at the Goodwill last year, and it was perfect for what I wanted to do. I just give it a coat of this paint because this paint, it has such good coverage. I knew it would cover everything in one sweep, but I actually saw a photo in the Country Core photos that I was looking at online where they had put a super light pink jug on a kitchen counter with baby's breath in it. I mean, the pink was so light, it's almost like a blush. And it was just perfect for that whole little cottage scene. So this is what we're going for. I don't know how many of you guys watch Mary from White Cottage Company. I love her, but she actually found this exact same jug in a thrift store last year and did a makeover. I think she painted it white, but it's like nobody wanted this jug. It was in thrift stores all over the United States, but there you go, you guys. Some baby's breath. It's perfect. I love the way this came out. So sorry I lost the beginning footage. All you see right there is me checking to see if the paint's dry. I just filmed myself painting these buckets. They were thrift finds. They were each $1.99. I got them half price on 50% off day, and so $1 each. And this bucket here has frogs on it. So my goal is to make those, camouflage them and make them disappear, because frogs are cute, but I'm not really wanting frogs for this particular decor piece. And I go ahead and take some sandpaper just to distress both of these little buckets. And this is my solution to the frog. I just actually take a hammer and I start pounding him. All the little shapes on the outside, on the inside, it actually works. And I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. And that lovely lady in the bathing suit and that nice man sitting by his Jaguar in 1946 is my mother and her father in England. So she's posing there in 1948 and he's posing in 1946. And you know what? This is a great craft, you guys. I was going to go online and look for a stranger, just an old vintage free download picture. And I suddenly thought, you know what? If you've got a family member or a photo of a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, just someone that you love the photo. I always remembered this photo and how good my mom looked. It looked like a movie star, and it was perfect for this craft. You should use them. I didn't even, when I thought of it, I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner, because it's a way to enjoy my mom all the time, and I still have a home decor piece. So I don't know if you guys noticed, I used my fingers to rub the Mod Podge on, which is a great way to, because I really dented that bucket. I needed to make sure that the photo stuck down in all the little grooves. And it doesn't mess the finish up as long as you're doing it while the Mod Podge is still wet and you finish it off with a brush stroke. And here I am just taking the pewter gray from Apple Barrel Paint and going around the edge here to kind of, soften up the borders. I don't want those real harsh borders, and I didn't want to tear the photo either. And so I use my finger to rub it in and cloud it up and just generally age the photo and the entire bucket. I end up aging it all the way around on both. Window. It's actually a photo holder. It was $1.50 at the thrift store, 50% off. I'm super excited when I find it because I didn't really want to go the Dollar Tree route where you take a whole bunch of photo frames and glue them together. It just didn't seem structurally sound, and I was always worried that might fall apart, and if I hang it on the wall it would come crashing down. So I'm really happy I find this. I take some regular acrylic white paint and I'm just going to lightly dry brush a thin layer of white paint on it. I don't want to hide the fact that it is real wood, because that's obviously one of the wonderful things about it is that it's real wood. So here's some wood that is actually from the bunk bed that I had my little boys in, and that's the railing that held my little boy in so he didn't fall out when he was little. And I'm just giving it a light coat of paint. Now I'm really excited because this is going to be the flower box at the bottom of the window, and it's real pine. And the whole time I'm crafting with this, there's just this super fresh smell of pine. I love wood. I love the smell of it, look of it, everything. And I really have a great respect for trees and for people who go out of their way to repurpose wood and recycle it and avoid throwing it away for as long as possible, as long as there's some life left in it. So here I'm using wood glue. And I've talked about this in previous videos, so if you're watching my video for the first time, wood glue is amazing for raw wood. It is structured at a molecular level to actually soak into the pores and become one with the wood. The wood bonds so strongly that if you pull it apart, oftentimes the wood will go with the glue. I have so little paint on there that there's enough grain hanging out that I'm going to have an easy bond there, so no worries. However, if you paint your wood really thick with paint, or you put a polyacrylic, Mod Podge, anything like that, game over, because it can't do its job at the molecular level. The molecular level, the molecule level. So just keep that in mind. If you want a really strong bond and you're working with raw wood, stick with the wood glue. So there's what we have so far, and I'm going to grab what's becoming one of my favorite craft items, spackling. And you can also get this at the Dollar Tree. I left a link in my description box to the one that I bought. But I'm just filling in the cracks there so that everything looks nice and connected. For those of you that watch me build a free ladder in my Seriously Free DIY series number 2, that's a piece of wood that I actually used as a palette to control how much paint I was going to put on that brush. But it's going to be a perfect aged bottom for this flower pot. So I cut it in half. And see how it's thin? You're not going to see it. And I just wanted to stick with wood, you guys. I didn't want to use any foam board, cardboard, or anything because it is a solid wood piece. So it worked out really, really well. And now I'm just taking some black paint and aging it and making it look like it's been outside. So here are the Walmart flowers, and I want to show you what I didn't get to show you last time is how full they are. This is what's a really big deal because they have tons of little branches on, and I only use the little individual branches, so I'm actually cutting them apart, and they do a remarkable job at filling everything out really, really well. The Dollar Tree has beautiful flowers too, but I'm not sure they're as full, so for the price it might work out to be the same. So the first item we have here was this beautiful bowl for $6.50. I thought it had really good bones, and it's very on trend right now, that shape. So when I'm shopping for glass, I just look for shapes. And I took it outside. I used this spray paint and gave it one coat. And this is what it looks like. So for large glass projects, you really do have to use spray paint with primer to get paint to stick. This paint right here, it is an acrylic chalk paint, so it has great coverage, but it doesn't adhere well to shiny surfaces. So here's the hack we did for this one, you guys. I put it on my Lazy Susan and I spun it around and around and around once I got enough of this chalk paint on it. See what I'm doing right there? And I used that brush from the Dollar Tree that's more like little wires, I guess, on purpose. So not a chip brush. You want to look for one that has the nylon wires. Well, they're not wires, they're bristles, but they look more like little mini tiny wires because they leave those wonderful grooves in the paint. And that's what I wanted because we're going to make this look like a ceramic clay bowl instead of a glass one. So once I did that, I gave it a quick dry because we have to turn it upside down to get the front part. Now here I'm not spinning it around because I want to show you guys if you don't have a Lazy Susan, you can still do this. You just have to have, so see the Dollar Tree cutting mat underneath? Those slide wonderful on tables. You can just buy one of those and use that to spin it around and around. That's what I did right here, and I'm showing you the result. I think it came up just as acceptable, but now I'm going to go ahead and do the last coat with the Lazy Susan, and we're taking the color beige from Apple Barrel Paint and we're giving it a light dry brush. So I got some areas, you can see it, where it's a little bit too heavy. I just took a baby wipe and I wiped that off to kind of blur it in. It worked perfect. And you just keep dry brushing. You want to make sure you dry brush though, because you're trying to pick up the grooves, and I'll show you up close at the end what that ended up looking like, but you definitely want to pick up the little ridges that there it is, see? I worked so hard to put those in there, so that was meant to be, I guess, defined by the dry brushing. So I did the same thing on the inside of this, same exact thing as the outside, and it came up really, really nice. And for the bottom in the center there, where it's kind of difficult because you can't spin it around, I just took my brush and put it in a circle around and around really quick. And that's what we ended up with right there. And of course I'm taking my baby wipe, making any corrections, but the technique worked out really beautifully. Next, I just took a little bit more of the white chalk paint and touched up areas again that were too dark, just to make sure everything looked kind of evened out. So I saw these wooden balls online at Amazon, and I thought they were so pretty because I want to fill this bowl up, but they're expensive, and it made me You know, this is a craft I made for Halloween. It was the top of like a potion bottle. Look at that. And I thought, you know, I've made something like this before just using wax. So I was using these foam balls here, and I figured, you know what, I've got to put something on the top of these to make them smooth. And I totally sat, and thank you to the Dollar Tree lady who was there with me in the aisle. She actually suggested covering them with balloons. I thought that was so clever. Now in hindsight, I will tell you, I would, if I ever do this again, I would use 2 balloons, because unless you want texture, but the styrofoam does kind of, well, it's very, this looks a lot easier than what it was, you guys. It was really hard to get these on, and I kind of pressed in the styrofoam a little bit and made it subtly uneven, I guess. That's a nice way of putting it. And another balloon over that would have made it even smoother and looked more refined and finished, but it still came absolutely gorgeous. I'm just letting you guys know that if you do this, put 2 balloons on them. They're cheap. You know, you could even put 3 if you need to. But definitely get your fingers out of there, because the styrofoam hurts. It scrapes your hands if you don't move it out there quickly. So all I did with the ends here is I just used hot glue. It was on low heat so that it didn't melt the styrofoam. And that's what we end up with right there. It's like a little stitch, and that will be the bottom. Obviously, when you put it in the bowl, you're not going to want to have that up at the top. Put that at the bottom. And now I'm doing my wax. And the trick, the little hack with this one is, after you put some wax on your little ball, spray some water on it, like spritz it, and then use your chip brush and just spin it around and around. It's on a Dollar Tree skewer, and then have some styrofoam. This is free styrofoam I got from a package in the mail that I saved, and I just use that to hold these up. And I did all of them. I did the 3 smaller balls and the 2 bigger balls at the Dollar Tree. I actually would have gotten, I think, all 4 of them. Well, I went in there with the intention to buy 6 bigger balls, but they only had 1 package of the bigger one, so I ended up doing the smaller ones. I'm actually glad I did. The different sizes look really pretty in the bowl, and you'll see that at the end. But we're going to set those aside now to dry. So I was desperate for more balls, you guys. So I took these baseball bats, and I thought, you know what, that will work. All the balls are sold out because it's summertime. So we grabbed these, and then I'm using sisal rope to cover it. Now see how I've wrapped the sisal rope up a little bit? I'm pinching it right there with my hand, and then I'm putting some hot glue on the bottom of the sisal rope and putting some on the ball. That is really, really helpful to get it going. Even if you use nautical rope, twine, it doesn't matter. Whatever you decide to cover the balls with, it's really helpful to kind of spin it a bit in a little pinwheel, I guess, so that it, you know, you have a nice big surface to start putting the glue down on, and that way it allows you to kind of tug a little bit better on it. I guess it's more secure in the beginning, and it allows you to get everything nice and tight and fitted so nothing shows in between your twine or sisal rope or whatever you're using. So I went ahead and I took some scissors when I was done with these, and I just trimmed off as much of the little hairy stuff as possible, because with sisal rope it is more like a straw, and so I've actually got almost like a splinter from this before, so I really like to trim it as flat as possible. And then I did use some fire from one of those lighters from the Dollar Tree, and I cinched it off. And here's what I discovered, because it did leave a little bit of a black mark on it. You know, sometimes I don't like singeing because I don't want that look. Well, sometimes I like that look. It depends. If I'm doing something rustic, I love it when it kind of singes it a bit and leaves behind some brown marks. But with this, I didn't want that. And I discovered if you take a baby wipe and wipe it off, it comes right off. So just passing that on in case you guys decide to use sisal rope. I don't think it would work with nautical rope because it's more like a cloth. This is more like a I don't want to say shiny, it's a straw, but it's more plasticky feeling, even though it's not plastic. So the black stuff wiped off. I don't think it would do that with a nautical rope. So that's a little bit of information there for you, just an FYI. And I made a total of 2 of these. So we're all done. I'm going to put it in the bowl here. I absolutely love the way this came out. It looks so high end. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Next, I grabbed this canister for $4.50. It was the cheapest canister there, and I thought, again, it had good bones, and I knew I could have some fun with this and make it into something really nice. So we are spray painting it again with the same spray paint, and I'm not going to worry, it's a little bit see-through. I only did one coat. You can see the markings underneath. I grabbed a coffee can lid and a Dollar Tree plunger. I also have one of these little wooden knobs from the Dollar Tree. I found a package of these there one day and I thought, oh, I might need those one day. So I went ahead and grabbed it, and it turns out it fits perfectly inside the plunger top. And if you guessed already, that's going to be the lid to this canister. It fits perfectly. I took E6000 because I wanted this to have a really strong permanent hold. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the bottom of the toilet bowl plunger and glue it on the top of the coffee can lid, I guess. That's just Maxwell House, and they all have the same size lids. So if you guys drink coffee, for those of you that are coffee drinkers out there, Folgers, I would imagine anything that has that plastic lid on top that is that bigger size, it was the bigger coffee canister, it will work for this. And that's what we have, and I'm going to set it aside to dry. We're going to take that chalk paint again in Cottage White, and we're going to go ahead and give this another coat of paint. I was running low on spray paint. In fact, I did run out actually, so I couldn't do 2 coats on any of these. I was just after getting some primer really on it so that the rest of the stuff would stick. So I set that canister aside to dry, and now the lid is dry. And I decided to go ahead and paint this all black. I'm going to use Waverly chalk paint in the color Ink because it's a really thick chalk paint. Okay, y'all. I just came back from a huge coughing fit. For those of you that watched my video last week, you might remember I said I was getting over a cold, and it has left me with that stupid dry tickle, that thing where you just from talking, it will set you off into a dry cough that you can't stop. By the way, I have a great life hack I would like to share with all of you. I put cayenne pepper in my coffee, and it was amazing for stopping that tickle, like for 15 minutes. I ran out of it. That's why I was struggling again. I had to go get more. But that is fantastic. That is the best thing I have found. It is way better than honey or lemon or water. Kind of just makes it go away for a while. So anyway, I painted this lid black. You could make it faux metal. You could rust it up. You could make it wood. I just wanted to leave it black because I wanted to do something I saw at Hobby Lobby. Here is a free printable that I designed. It's my version of it, but it'll be down below in the description box. Most of you know the drill. You just click see more, or sometimes it says more. It depends what device you're using, and a drop-down menu will appear underneath the video, and the link will be in there, and it will take you to this printable. So what I saw at Hobby Lobby was like a mix, and I've seen it at Home Goods, and I've seen it everywhere that carries different home decor. It was like a mix of vintage and new. I don't know if it's supposed to be for like an industrial farmhouse or a modern cottage, or if just for people who have modern homes that kind of like their kitchen to have some country stuff. I don't know. But I just thought it would be so cute. So I'm taking a glue stick to put this label down because glue stick still is the best. It isn't what you glue it down with that's important. It's what you seal it with. So I know when I first started speaking about this on YouTube 3 years ago, I freaked a lot of crafters out, but it really is the best route to go with the driest glue possible if it works. Seal it with something good. I'm going to seal it with Mod Podge in matte clear acrylic sealer. You could use a clear polyacrylic. You could use something called a clear varnish. Anything will work like that. Just seal it up really good, and we're all done. Let me know what you think. Okay, next stop was actually the Salvation Army. I didn't take you with me to this thrift store because there wasn't a whole bunch of stuff, but I did find this vase. It was gorgeous, and it was only $4.99, and I found several high-end decor pieces that match this shape really well, so I knew I could dupe it. So I went ahead and I decided to do the Crate and Barrel Ophelia Matte Natural Large Vase. It was $99.95. Went ahead and gave this a coat of the paint and primer, Here we go, same drill. And of course I ran out of spray paint, not important because we're gonna put something on this to hide the fact that it's glass. So for this one, we're gonna go ahead and use just the apple barrel paint in white. And I'm gonna go ahead and add some baking soda to that. I love this method. I went over this method years ago to show you how to not, make chalk paint. It doesn't help in the least with transparency. So if a paint is really see-through, baking soda ain't gonna cut it. I will say it gives beautiful texture if you want to do a faux cement or a faux ceramic, which is what we're doing today. But the most beautiful attribute of chalk paint, crafting chalk paint in particular, is that you only need one coat. It just has great coverage. So we're going to take a stencil sponge today and tap this on all over this vase. Hey everyone, be sure to follow me on my new Facebook. I do post things there that I don't post on YouTube. I also started a TikTok, so wherever you want to follow me, feel free to follow me. If you have some crafts you want to share, you can do that on Facebook under mentions on that page, and everyone will be able to see it. We have some beautiful stuff, so go check it out, and I will see you over there. Okay, so the next thing we did is the chalk paint. So when this was all dry, I did have to give it one final coat of the Cottage white chalk paint just to make sure that there wasn't any transparency and that it was just more even and uniform. So I wanted this to match the first DIY, so I went ahead and used the color beige again by Apple Barrel, and that also matched the Crate and Barrel picture that I saw as well. And you just sponge it on with a stencil sponge or a stencil brush. You just stipple it on, and then wherever it got kind of heavy, again, I added the water. I always have a little spritz water next to it. That seems to really help. And I was taking a baby wipe and wiping it horizontally because the one from Crate and Barrel does have like a horizontal look to the stippling, I guess. There's some like lines there, so I just kind of wanted to make sure I got that in there. And of course I just do this to the whole vase, and I went as far down as I could on the top inside as well. So just like my pretty bowl, I took some more of the chalk paint and just put that on top just to kind of make sure I broke everything up and made sure it looked like it was stippled on. And we're all done. See the little lines across there? I think this came out so pretty. So what was missing was this beautiful fake branches here, the faux greenery. I ordered that. You can see I ordered it on Amazon, and here's a picture from one of the customers that bought it. So that's what it's going to look like. It's going to look so pretty in this vase. I can't wait to style it that way, but for now, here it is. Here's this super cute little creamer that I found for $2. It ended up having like little engraved vines on the front. I don't know if you can see that right there. That was a nice surprise. This is the one I actually ran out of spray paint, so we had to just go it with the chalk paint. And the chalk paint, I don't know if you noticed, it says acrylic chalk paint. It is not meant for furniture. This is definitely crafting chalk paint, and it's made with a base of acrylic paint, just like Apple Barrel acrylic paint, so it's not as strong. So when you're in that position like I was, you can go ahead and do it, but you're limited on how many times you can go over it with the wax, because if you keep going over it when the wax starts to dry, which happens pretty quick, believe it or not, when you're trying to do like dry brushing and stuff, it's drying out really fast. If you go over it when it's kind of like semi-wet with more wet wax, you will lift it off the glass. So this is how I go about doing it. I put it on nice and thick, and then I do a quick dry brush with one of these brushes again from Dollar Tree that kind of have the nylon bristles, and I don't go over it more than a couple times, and then I stop. That's it. It's better to wait and let it dry overnight if you need to add to it or whatever, and even better, it's if you have spray paint and you spray paint it, then that won't happen. But anyway, I actually did get 2 new cans in the mail today, so I'm really excited about that. But it used a lot more paint than I thought it was going to use up, so I ran out. But anyway, this came up so cute. You can do it, and again, it's important what you seal it with. I went ahead and sealed it with the Mod Podge, but here it is. this photograph a while ago on Pinterest and I absolutely loved it. And I thought when I saw this, it was $4.99. I got it for half price at $2.50. I thought I'm going to get this and tried to dupe this. So this is a pie tin from the Dollar Tree. I think they call it cake pan, but to me it looks more like a pie tin. I'm just going to take off the sticker, use a little scraper from the Dollar Tree to scrape it off. I'm going to use some Waverly paint in the color ink because the chalk paint does tend to stick better to this pie tin. You can sand it to rough it up a little bit. I wish I did, but I forgot, so I had to seal it extra good at the end. Another trick that you can do, and this is in the event that you don't have the right color in spray paint, because otherwise it's kind of redundant. If you're going to spray your craft, you might as well just spray it the color that you want it. But let's say you have your favorite color and it's in an acrylic paint and you're worried about it sticking, you can spray your craft or any shiny surface with a clear acrylic spray or a clear varnish, anything clear like that, and your paint will stick to it. You could even use white spray paint in a pinch because that's a good, neutral base for you to paint other colors on, and your paint, even acrylic paint, will stick. So I'm going to go ahead and paint the bottom of the candle holder now and the sides and the top. I forgot I didn't want to paint the top because I wanted to glue it directly on the surface, so you'll see me after I dry everything take a nail file and sand just the edges off where I'm going to put the permanent glue. But I didn't do a perfect paint job because a lot of antiquing they add this color blue in there, so I wasn't worried if some of it was peeking out. I thought that would just make it look even more authentic. Here I go with the nail file. We're just going to get some of this paint off and then we're going to glue the lid on the top. I'm going to use a combination of E6000 and hot glue. So if you watch crafting videos, you've probably seen that trick hundreds of times. You can use any strong adhesive that you want. The reason we mix the two with hot glue is because we want to keep moving and it provides an instant bond. If you're a crafter at home that also loves an instant bond, it's a great little trick. And if not, you can just use a strong adhesive and wait for it to dry. It doesn't have to be E6000. It does smell very strong of fumes, but I have a HEPA filter going in the crafting room and my windows open as well, so make sure you have plenty of ventilation when you use that glue. You also saw me draw a circle on the bottom of that pie tin, and yes, I am sticking with pie tin, but that's just me. You don't have to do that. It just drives me nuts when things are not centered. If you're really good at getting it centered without drawing that circle, you can skip that step. Now I'm going to use some paint in the color plaster. This is actually folk art paint, and it's more, I think, if you look at the ingredients, it's more designed for furniture and heavier use of chalk paint, so this definitely sticks. Better than Waverly for sure. It's just a tougher paint because it is made for furniture. It sticks better, it's tougher, and you're just going to have that added benefit if you use it for crafting. So I'm just using this, as you can see, in a really haphazard, dry brushing manner. The reason I did black first, and I spoke about this in very early videos, so for those of you that are watching for the first time, when you have wood, it's never one color. Wood has many colors in it, just like hair does. You see the color brown, but there's actually red in there, gold, so many different colors, and it does look more authentic and more real if you take the time to do black as a base, then you do your white, and then you go from there staining, and you'll see right here, you can already see it. It just looks more like an antiqued wood. So that's what we have so far, and this is the free printout for you guys today. I love this printout. It's a cute little bunny with an Easter egg, and I'm going to cut it out really slowly around the edges. I am taking off the grass that kind of hangs over the edge because I know that's not going to fit on this Dollar Tree egg. This is a Dollar Tree egg, by the way. They have these in like a chicken, I didn't get the chicken, a carrot egg bunny. I love them. They're super heavyweight and they stand up on their own. It is so high-end feeling and looking, and there's so many things that you can do with this with crafting, so I was so pleased to find these. So keep an eye out for them in your local Dollar Tree. And I'm just using the good old glue stick trick. It's my favorite because it guarantees you're not going to get any wrinkles or creases, and you can always seal it with Mod Podge afterwards if you want. There's another method of putting Mod Podge on and then ironing, and I always like to get it done really fast. That is a great method. Absolutely, it works. You won't get any wrinkles, guaranteed. but I just like to go really fast and do it the easiest way, and the glue stick works perfect. I've never had it come off, and it's really not about what you glue things down with, it's more about what you seal it with. That's what holds it down in the end. So you can always, do the glue stick, be generous with it, lots of heavy layers, and then go from there. So I'm just adding some Dollar Tree florals now. I added some of the little palms, I guess. I think those were from Walmart. Then the boxwood was from Amazon. I have those linked down below in my description box. It's a very good deal. And the yellow flowers are from Dollar Tree. And the lavender, I go to Walmart to get that because the price for the amount that you get is pretty much comparable to Dollar Tree, and I think the lavender looks so real. It's superior. And I'm just trimming the bottom here because I want this to stand up on its own. I'm using these little tiny flowers that I got from Temu in their crafting section. It was a really good deal. I think I paid maybe $1 for all these little spring flowers, and I thought those would come in really handy during the Easter season. And now I'm using 2 of the towering blocks from Dollar Tree just to put it on the back to make sure that it stands up without falling down. I'm just going to check to make sure it does not tip over right there, and we are good to go. So these are the furniture pens. You find them over in the automotive section, usually in the Dollar Tree, and I love to distress with them. But here's the thing. These wonderful, thick little crafting eggs, bunnies, and whatever, they still look like MDF board on the side. So I thought, I'm just gonna scribble the furniture pen on there and stain it and see what happens. And I got a wonderful effect. It actually made it look like a sliced tree trunk, like a wood piece. Really, really good. You probably could use a brown marker for it too, but I'm not sure. But just remember that hack. If you find those little eggs and bunnies that are really thick, just remember that little hack because it definitely elevated it. So now I'm using the reindeer moss. This is about the only time that I use it, is usually during the Easter season because it's so vivid and green, although it's also nice for Christmas, for some crafts for sure. And I put it inside my pie tin, put the egg in there, and this is what we ended up with, and we're all done. I love this. I was so excited to find this. This is like a little mini cake pan, like riser. It was only $3.50. The original store was Home Goods, and I had just been in there, and they're still, they're on clearance. Those are still there. So somehow it ended up in the thrift store, and I grabbed it, and now I'm gonna go ahead. Well, I thought about it. Do I want to leave this gold? Do I want to paint it white? And I thought, no, I definitely like the metal, but it's too bright and shiny for me. I thought I'm going to antique it, and my little hack for antiquing gold is just taking black chalk paint and smearing it on, just covering all of the gold everywhere basically where it's shiny, and you just keep working with it, and you use a Kleenex like a tissue. You don't use a wipe. You actually have to use something dry for this to work, and you just keep smearing it around and around, and it gives it a wonderful effect of antiquing. Super easy, super cheap, and the results are beautiful. Next, we have these foam eggs from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to use 3 of them. This time, I'm not going to stake them with a skewer. I usually stake my foam eggs because they already have a hole in them, so I figure why not. But these don't have holes in them, which is why I bought them, because, I wanted some eggs without puncture marks. So I'm holding them with my fingers, so please excuse me. It's a little bit messy, but it works. I'm using a light blue paint from Apple Barrel Paint. Any light blue paint will work. I'm going to try and copy some eggs that I saw online. They're like wild bird eggs, and I'm not sure what the species is. I just Googled blue bird eggs, and a bunch of different photos come up, and I look, and I try to copy it the best I can. So while those are drying, I'm taking some of the Spanish moss. This was originally from Dollar Tree, but I put it all in a Ziploc bag because the bags don't close. They don't have Ziplocs on them, so it was getting really messy. And I'm just squishing it together and kind of trying to form a faux bird's nest. This is a really easy way to make a bird's nest, and it looks good. So great hack. And now I'm taking some of the color in Territorial Beige from Apple Barrel Paint, and I'm just going to take a baby wipe and just kind of smear a little bit here and there because that's what I'm seeing in the photograph. Again, I'm trying to copy the photo that I'm seeing online, and the eggs are not perfect. They have like a dark kind of brown and gray hues in them, and they look kind of mottled. So after I'm done, this is what we have, and it's pretty close to the photo that I'm looking at, but I need some little black speckles. So I just take some paint on, I just dip my brush in a bunch of black paint and I leave it very heavy on the brush on purpose, and then I just use my fingernail and spray it on like that, and we get a nice effect. Next, I'm going to get the wonderful reindeer moss again. It's my to-go-to for Easter. I love this one, or spring. I just think it's perfect. I'm going to put a little bit down first, and then I'm going to put my faux bird's nest out of Spanish moss down next, and then I'm just going to fill it up with these little blue eggs, and the results I think are stunning. This is my kitchen table centerpiece this year, and I love it. Let me know what you think. This was a fantastic find at Ross. It was $1.49, and it's a super cute basket. I just felt like it looked a little bit more like a Wizard of Oz basket for some reason. Maybe it's because it's the print of Dorothy's dress, but I wanted to see what I could do with this. And you can do this same principle, what I'm going to do today for this DIY, with Dollar Tree wire baskets. In fact, you can take two of the square ones, cut the bottom out of one with wire cutters, and attach it together on top to the other one with some wires, and then do this exact same principle and have a beautiful holiday, autumn, fall, or Thanksgiving basket. So after I remove everything, and it took me a long time, I start cutting out the extra large jumbo craft sticks from Walmart, and I measure them so that they're going to fit on the side. And we're going to try and create more of a farmhouse / apple basket, or something to put your pumpkins in, just something that looks a little bit more like autumn. I do recommend that you use a good quality hot glue for this craft so that it will stick to the wood and the metal. I'm using a glue from Surebonder here that claims it's extra strong, but I'm going to go ahead and do a couple other things to this basket that will ensure that these craft sticks stay in place. One, I'm going to go ahead and put nautical rope on the top and the bottom, and after I stain these, I'll go ahead and put some nautical rope in the middle as well. Here you see me adding a little bit of water that I put on my brush to some antiquing wax. I'm using the Folklore brand, but any antique wax will work. Now, you can apply it with a baby wipe, but it still doesn't glide quite as well as it does when you add water to it. I still find it functions more like a wood stain when you add water to it. It's still not enough water there because I end up taking a tissue to wipe it off. I mean, you can really water this down and it works beautifully as a stain. And if you want to use a baby wipe, you can. You're just not going to have quite the glide factor that you will if you add water. This is what it looks like when it's dry. Isn't that beautiful? So I did end up, as you saw, painting it on and then just wiping off the excess. That was working fine. So I thought, you know what, this is working. I'm going to go with it. You can do it however it works best for you. If you do use one of the Dollar Tree like gold baskets, you might want to spray paint it black first. But as you can see, once you're done putting the nautical rope on the top, bottom, and in the middle, there's no way that these are going to come off. The way I handled the bottom of this basket was to cut out some really thick quality cardboard. If you do the two Dollar Tree baskets on top of each other trick, you'll have a bottom on the bottom basket, so you won't have to worry about this so much, but you could still do this if you wanted to. And I just cut it so that it fits, and then I cut craft sticks. I didn't have to cover with craft sticks because there's going to be some Spanish moss in here or hay or something during the fall season, but I think it's more psychological. I just wanted it to be all wood since I went to all that work, and so I covered it with some craft sticks, and then I took the jute twine because I wanted it to be really thin and dainty looking, and covered the entire handle. And yes, it took me a long time, but I think it was beautiful and worth it because the results are very pretty. And I took my flame as usual, floated it over there just to get rid of the excess hair, and I'm just going to go ahead and tie a big raffia bow on the side for a little bit of the season's, garnish on there, and add some velvet pumpkins inside the middle, and that's it. We're all done, and I think this came up so cute. So I found this white tray. I'm pretty sure this is from the Dollar Tree Plus because they have one just like this. It's like $5. I didn't pay too far off from that. I paid like $3.50, I think. But it's a solid wood tray. It's kind of bright white for me. So as you can see, I'm going to take some gray paint. It's from Apple Barrel, pewter gray, and just distress it a little bit because I don't want mine to be so white. So I do have another free printable for you. It's so cute. I found it on, I believe it was Clip Art, for vintage bunnies, and the ears are a little short for a bunny, but my husband said it looks like a magical mythical creature, so all the little guys come out during springtime, so I still love it. And I ended up printing it out on tissue paper. The method for tissue paper is really easy. You just use some cardstock, some regular tissue paper like you would wrap a gift with, nothing fancy. You can even use generic, it doesn't have to be Hallmark or anything, and you tape the edge of, you cut it out the same size as the cardstock, and tape the edge with masking tape or painter's tape or a tape that you can easily remove, and you just put it through your printer the right side up, and the image will print on the tissue paper, and then you cut it away from the cardstock, and it does a wonderful transfer. I love this over a Cricut. I have a Cricut, and I never use it because I don't feel like it's fair, because you guys are so excluded unless you have a Cricut. So I try to avoid using it so everyone can recreate what I'm making if they want to. Plus, you can't get intricate images like this with Cricut. It's just like, well, it's vinyl. It's like the vinyl stickers you get from Dollar Tree, and you just stick it on your craft. So I'm not a huge fan. This is actually flatter and to me less noticeable because I use the glue stick. You saw what I did, and it just goes down perfectly flat, no wrinkles, and then I dry brush around it to make it blend in, and it disappears. I've shown it on a Christmas video how much it disappears. It's great. So you saw me take some sandpaper and a nail file just to sand off any extra paint that I didn't want and distress it. Then I'm putting Mod Podge on because I will be using this, but we're all done. I hope you had as much fun as I did making these. Oh my gosh. And remember, I did it for Easter, but you can use any printable you want. You can put anything you want on top of a tray. I just did it at the time for Easter, but these are great ideas for thrift makeovers, and I'll see you in the next video.